Meet Kyurem, this legendary ice dragon Pokemon. It generates a powerful freezing energy inside itself, but its body became frozen when the energy leaked out. This legendary ice Pokemon waits for a true hero to fill in the missing parts of its body with truths or ideals. It can produce ultra cold air and its body is frozen. Yeah. Cool, huh? It's cool. What is going on, guys? This is Dobbs here, bringing you another Pokemon video. And in this video, we're gonna go over the 10 biggest nerfs in Pokemon. But before we start, this video is sponsored by Another Eden. And Another Eden is a single-player Japanese role-playing game by the creators behind the Chrono series. Yeah, that's right, the writer Masato Kato, who wrote the story for Chrono Trigger and also Final Fantasy XI, is behind the main story of Another Eden. So you already know Another Eden is going to have a great story, and as someone who played Chrono Trigger, I can definitely vouch for Masato. I am a huge fan of time traveling, and the way he portrayed it in Chrono Trigger was just top-notch. Wait, what'd you say, Mini-Me? You've played Another Eden? I see you're playing Chrono Trigger right now. So wait, you're telling me that players can play the story for hours on end and that the characters are not unlocked by a paywall? Oh, and also you can explore parallel worlds like in the Chrono Cross game? That sounds pretty cool, actually. And also something that's really cool is that you can play crossover stories of Persona 5 Royal and also the Tales of series, and they're both permanently available in the game. And just check out the reviews yourself. It has a 4.8 on the App Store, a 4.5 on Google Play, an 88 on Metacritic, and was also named RPG's Fans' Best Mobile Game of 2019, and that's a pretty big deal, I would say. So yeah, this is definitely a stat game, and the best part about it is that it's completely free to download. You can download it on iOS, Android, and even on Steam. So it doesn't hurt to give it a shot, and you can use my link down below in the description to download it real quick and try it out. So yeah, big shout out to Another Eden for sponsoring this video, and without further ado, let's get right into the video. Alright, let's start this list with probably the most nerfed Pokemon in Pokemon history, and that is Executor. Yeah, if you didn't know, Executor in Generation 1 was a powerhouse and was commonly referred to as the 4th best Pokemon in the meta. Because for one, it was the best sleeper available, and going to sleep in Generation 1 was very deadly because it could last up to 7 turns. On top of that, it was a Psychic type, and in Generation 1, Psychic was the best typing because it only had one weakness, which was Bug, and all the Bug type moves were just awful. Like, quite literally, the best move was Twin Needle, and it only did 25 base power. So being a second type made it tanky and also gave it a stab psychic, which did a lot of damage. Additionally, it had Explosion, which did 170 base damage and also half the target's defense. So when Executor was low on health, it could literally just take down a Pokemon with it, which was insane. So suffice it to say, Executor was a pretty awesome Pokemon, but when Generation 2 came around, it got hit pretty hard by the nerfs. And let's just start with the most devastating one. When the special split happened, it lost 60 in its special defense stat, which was the 4th biggest nerf of all Pokemon. It also gained 2 weaknesses, which was Ghost and Dark, so not only it became Flail, but it also became pretty vulnerable. The status Sleep got nerfed, so instead of lasting 7 turns, it can now only last 5 turns. And then in the later gens, its Sleep Powder will no longer affect Grass-type Pokemon, and its Explosion will no longer half the opponent's defense. Oh, and also Bug-type Pokemon just became stronger and stronger, so they really can just pack a punch now with that 4 times weakness. So Executor has definitely fallen from being one of the best Pokemon in the meta to now just a never used Pokemon in the meta, making it one of the biggest nerfs in Pokemon. Continuing on with Generation 1 nerfs, we have Blizzard, but this one wasn't nerfed in Generation 2. It was actually nerfed in the same generation of Generation 1. Now, surprisingly, the move Blizzard was different in the Japanese version of Pokemon Red and Green, because in those games, it has a 30% chance of freezing the target. But when Pokemon was localized to the United States, they decided to change it to a 10% chance instead of 30. And when you think about it, this is actually a humongous nerf, because in Generation 1, being frozen was insanely broken. Because back in those days, there's only 2 ways to thaw out, with the Ice Heal or the opponent using a Fire type attack on your Pokemon. And in a VGC setting, you're not going to be able to use an item, and your opponent is never going to use a Fire type attack on your frozen Pokemon. They're just going to leave it frozen and destroy it. So the fact that Blizzard went from a 30% chance of freezing the target, which was 1 in 3 times, to 10%, which was 1 in 10 times, is a massive nerf. Now I see why Lorelei is an Elite Four member, because originally Ice-type Pokemon were very deadly, and the fact that she had a whole team of them that could possibly freeze your Pokemon forever was just insane. Alright, let's switch gears to a different kind of nerf. We have Aerodactyl, who was nerfed by nature. Now, we all know Aerodactyl is an ancient Pokemon that went extinct millions of years ago, but have you ever wondered what its predecessors evolved into? Well, here's a pretty classic theory for you. Aerodactyl actually evolved into Zubat. Yes, once proclaimed King of the Skies turned into this pathetic thing. And let's put these Pokemon side by side and show the similarities between the two. First of all, their wings are extremely similar. They are both bat-like with a purple innard and more of a gray colored outward. And then once Zubat evolves into Crobat, Aerodactyl's shiny colors are almost identical. And when you view Crobat's 3D model, you can notice that it only has teeth in its lower jaw, while Aerodactyl is known for having a strong lower jaw that is like its main feature. And when you look closely, Aerodactyl doesn't even have teeth on its upper jaw, it's just a beak. And it's not just their appearances, they also learn the same moves. When you receive an Aerodactyl, it knows Supersonic, Bite, and Wing Attack for its starting moves, while with Zubat, it learns those moves naturally pretty quickly. Just looking at Zubat's Generation 1 Learn set, it learns Supersonic at level 10, Bite at 15, and Wing Attack at 28. Oh, and here's another interesting thing with Aerodactyl and Crobat. They are tied for speed. Coincidence? I think not. And finally, I'm about to blow your mind. In the Trainer's Guidebook that comes with Pokemon Red and Blue, there's a section that talks about rare Pokemon. And what do you know? There's a Zubat right next to it. And under it, it says that in each game, there's a Pokemon that appears only once. If you don't capture it the first time, you will never have a chance to capture it again. And what's a Pokemon that only appears one time in those games? Well, it's Aerodactyl, because you can only revive the fossil just one time. So it makes me wonder, why would they put Zubat next to this rare Pokemon segment? Was Aerodactyl originally going to be Zubat's second evolution? Because I could totally see that, it would make sense why they look so similar. But yeah, if the theory holds up, I can say for certain that Aerodactyl was nerfed by nature, because once it was a king of the skies, now it's just a pathetic bat in a cave that you just run into endlessly. Alright, let's go back to Generation 2, because there's a lot of changes and nerfs in those games, and now we have Tangela. Now, just like Executor, Tangela was hit with a special defense nerf as well. It was brought down by 60 points, which was tied for the 4th biggest nerf of all Pokemon, just like Executor. And you have to wonder, why would they nerf Tangela so badly when it wasn't even originally a good Pokemon to begin with? It had a very low offensive presence, a limited move pool, and a speed lower than even Vaporeon, which was saying a lot. So why on earth would they nerf this Pokemon when it was so bad? Well, as it turns out, in Generation 2, Tangela was meant to have a pre-evolution and a final evolution, and their names were Monha and Geronra, and they actually had their sprites made as well. This is what they would have looked like. So with that context, it makes total sense on why they would nerf Tangela to make it more of a middle stage Pokemon. However, here's the unfortunate thing. They scrapped Monha and Geronra with a ton of other Pokemon and then just kind of forgot that they nerfed Tangela. So Tangela just got nerfed for absolutely no reason and just gotten forgotten about. And really didn't become a good Pokemon until the Eviolite came out in Generation 5. After that, it became a great defensive wall. Actually, nowadays, it's one of the best defensive walls, so I guess it kind of redeemed itself. But yeah, Tangela got punished for absolutely no reason and wasn't shown any love for many generations, making this a very big nerf. Alright, a short and sweet one. We have Typhlosion. Now, do you know what Pokemon got nerfed the hardest when transitioning to 3D Pokemon games? Well, it was Typhlosion, and maybe Marshtomp, but mainly Typhlosion. It went from having epic flames that made it look all epically fire-typey to now just a rodent just sitting there. I know. And people really seem to resonate with this on Twitter, because I did a tweet asking what the biggest nerfs were in Pokemon with the model difference with Typhlosion, and it became my most liked tweet, like literally. So yeah, people really don't like Typhlosion without his fire. Oh, and also if you could do me a solid and follow me on Twitter, because I'm still trying to get verified. I can't get verified. I need you all to follow me. I would love y'all forever. Alright, let's talk about a move that was nerfed in Pokemon, and that is Sleep Talk. But before I talk about Sleep Talk, I need to tell y'all about Snorlax, because this Pokemon is the cornerstone on why Sleep Talk was so broken. Now, if you didn't know, Snorlax back in Generation 2 was the single most dominant Pokemon to ever exist in the OU tier history. And if you didn't know, OU means overused, and it's probably the most popular format for Pokemon battling. And Snorlax in Pokemon Gold and Silver was just an unstoppable machine because it had power, resilience, and unpredictability, meaning that Snorlax could cover every role, from being a sweeper with Curse, a mixed attacker with elemental moves, or as a defensive wall as a rest talker. Snorlax was the god of the metagame, and every Pokemon around it worshipped it and revolved around it, which leads me to why Sleep Talk was nerfed. Now, if you didn't know, Sleep Talk in Generation 2 could actually Sleep Talk Rest. So if a Pokemon like Snorlax needed to soak up some damage and was already asleep, he could literally just Sleep Talk Rest and get his health back again. And you can only imagine how frustrating that would be. Like, just imagine going up against the best Pokemon in the metagame and using all of your resources to bring it down to 1 HP just for it to randomly roll another rest with Sleep Talk. That's like climbing up a mountain and flipping a coin, and if it's heads, you have to climb it again because the first one didn't count. It was just a broken mechanic, and I see why it was nerfed. It deserved it, making this a pretty big nerf to this move. Next up, we have Ash's Turtwig, and this Pokemon was nerfed by just evolving. Now, Ash's Turtwig was a prominent member of Ash's team because it was used for a lot of early battles and pretty much won them all. It helped Ash defeat Roark's, Gardenians, and Wake's gyms, and even helped him win the tag battle competition that took place in Hearthome City. And on top of that, in a bunch of filler episodes, it won the majority of battles, so this Pokemon had a lot going for it, until Ash received a Chimchar and it evolved. And let's talk about it evolving first. I kid you not, once it evolved into Torterra, it didn't win a single battle again. Besides the random shenanigans with Team Rocket, it didn't win a single battle against any type of trainer ever. It lost against Candice, Palmer, Bertha, Volkner, and even Paul, that scummy kid. And even in battles where it had the type advantage, it still lost. So yeah, once it evolved into Torterra, its win rate from like a 90% to a 0% quite literally. But here's the thing, I don't think its evolution is the main reason why Turtwig's decline got so pathetic. I think Ash's Chimchar took all the spotlight from it and took all of the battles that it would have won. And it makes sense because Chimchar and its evolution Infernape are more marketable Pokemon, so of course they're going to win all the important battles for Ash. So I wouldn't be surprised if the writers for the anime were like, hey, let's have Infernape win this battle and not Torterra because Infernape is cooler and the kids are going to resonate with him more. So yeah, Ash's Turtwig got nerfed hard, like the hardest that I've seen in the anime. Going from like a 90% win rate to 0% is just insane. And I feel bad for Torterra because once it lost against Paul in the final battle of that season, Ash just kind of dumped it at Professor Oak's lab and just never saw it again. Hopefully one of these days, maybe in Journeys, it will have a redemption and finally win a battle. But for now, it is a nerfed Pokemon. Now let's talk about an ability that was nerfed, and that is Gale Wings. Now, Gale Wings is Talonflame's signature ability, and what it does is that it gives +1 priority for its flying type moves. And surprisingly, this +1 priority made Talonflame a pretty strong Pokemon, especially in the VGC meta. Because here's how it worked. Let's say Talonflame sets up with a Swords Dance on turn 1, and it gets hit for half of its HP. Talonflame can then do a priority acrobatics, take down that Pokemon, and then do a priority ruse on the next one and not take as much damage. Just for the fact that it could prioritize healing was a big deal, especially in Pokemon battling. And another thing that was a big deal was that Talonflame could do a priority Brave Bird and just sweep everything that it wanted to. And this combo of Brave Bird with Gale Wings was so strong that it was even in the VGC tournament of the World Championships. Even the person who won the Masters Division, you know, the guy who used the Pachirisu in the final battle, he ran a Talonflame with Gale Wings and Brave Bird, and it did really well. And I guess it did too well because Game Freak decided to nerf this ability in Generation 7. And since then, Gale Wings only gives priority to flying type moves when Talonflame is at full HP. So that whole ruse strat I was talking about doesn't really work anymore. And now if Talonflame uses Brave Bird, it will get hit by recoil damage and lose that priority with Gale Wings. So yeah, this was definitely a big nerf to this fiery Pokemon. It made its viability definitely weaker. And nowadays, Talonflame isn't even used as a sweeper. It's more as a defensive check for fighting type Pokemon and such. It just uses its base ability Flame Body with a more defensive set. So this nerf destroyed an archetype for Talonflame, which says a lot. Alright, this next one is from Super Smash Bros, and you probably guessed it, it is Jigglypuff. Now, the transition from Melee to Brawl did a number on Jigglypuff because it went from being one of the best characters in the game to now one of the worst. Like, just look at this tier list of Super Smash Bros. Melee, okay? Now look at Brawl. Jigglypuff went from an S tier to an F tier, like literally the third best character to the third worst character. And to really just showcase on how big they nerfed Jigglypuff, I'm just gonna list everything they did to her in Brawl. So here we go, they reduced her combo ability. Her rest became a lot weaker in terms of knockback. Not 1, not 2, but 3 aerial attacks were weakened, most notably her B-Air. Her forward smash became weaker, and her smash attacks in general received longer ending lag. She became the slowest dasher in the game in terms of speed, and also became second to Yoshi in terms of airspeed. Her down air could no longer meteor smash, and finally her Wall of Pain became harder to pull off, which was spamming her back air to KO the opponent, which was one of her best tools. And I'm not even kidding when I say this, these nerfs stayed in place until Ultimate. There were probably minor changes here and there, but she was never buffed back to what she was until years later. There was even a website called Buff the Puff that counted the days that Jigglypuff went without getting buffed. And it was like in the thousands and created this movement of like everyone wanting Jigglypuff to be buffed again. So in terms of big nerfs, this is definitely the biggest one that has happened to a Pokemon. Jigglypuff just got owned by Sakurai. And finally, you probably saw this one coming, we have Smeargle. Now, before we talk about Smeargle, I need to talk about a particular move, and that is Dark Void. Dark Void is Darkrai's signature move that is a multi-target attack that puts the opponents to sleep. And this move in itself is very powerful because, for one, it has an 80% accuracy, so the majority of time, the opponent's going to go to sleep. And for two, it's a multi-target hit, so in a double battle, you can literally put 2 Pokemon to sleep and just take over the battle. And with this insane move, can you guess who was the biggest offender from using it? Nope, not Darkrai. It is actually this little puppy here. It's Smeargle. Smeargle can utilize Dark Void with an unlimited pool of support moves because the niche with Smeargle is that it can learn any move. So this little dog Pokemon could go in and Dark Void and put both Pokemon to sleep and then set up with a Stealth Rock, Sticky Web, Spikes, and even pull off a Destiny Bomb with his Focus Sash in his back pocket. This move just made Smeargle incredibly powerful, like incredibly. And it was so powerful, of course it was used in the VGC during that time at Pokemon X and Y. It was one of the most popular Pokemon for every team, so I'm not surprised that Game Freak got sick of seeing this Pokemon out in the wild. So in Generation 7 and Pokemon Sun and Moon, they nerfed Dark Void to where only Darkrai can learn it. And on top of that, to put salt in the wound, they made it where it has a 50% accuracy instead of 80%. So now when you throw out a Dark Void, it is more likely that only one Pokemon will go to sleep instead of both of them. So this was a huge hit to Smeargle because now it's not as dominant when entering the battlefield and just taking over the entire game on turn 1. And even though Smeargle is still pretty good because it can learn any move, it's just not what it used to be. This nerf really hindered it a lot. And to put it simply, that is why it is on this list. It is one of the biggest nerfs in Pokemon history. And there you go, 10 of the biggest nerfs in Pokemon. Hope you enjoyed it. Hey, what'd you think of that drawing I did of Kira? It looks pretty derpy, right? Well, if you like that, you should check out my 10 Pokemon you've never seen before video. I commissioned a few artists for that one, so there'll be more arts of custom Pokemon in there as well. Just click on the end card right here to check it out. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell.